Hello, and welcome to the Gravel Ride Podcast, where we go deep on the sport of gravel cycling through in-depth interviews with product designers, event organizers, and athletes who are pioneering the sport. I'm your host, Craig Dalton, a lifelong cyclist who discovered gravel cycling back in 2016 and made all the mistakes you don't need to make. I approach each episode as a beginner to unlock all the knowledge you need to become a great gravel cyclist. This week on the podcast, I'm excited to have Joe Earley, one of the co-founders of Te Foci Optics. In 2003, Joe and his wife Elizabeth Earley founded the brand to create a cycling eyewear company that was affordable. They were reps in the bicycle industry, as you'll learn in his story, and saw an opportunity to create something that had all the high performance characteristics of the high price brands, but at a more affordable cost. If you've been around the cycling industry for any amount of time, I'm sure you've seen Te Foci Optics out there on the roads. They're the number one selling brand of eyewear in specialty cycling today. I've had the opportunity to run their Rail XC glass for a couple months now. It's a frameless glass, so there's just the earpieces on the side attached to a frame. Super lightweight. I've been impressed with the durability and the overall quality. I've been using a lens that changes as the sunlight changes, which is amazing as a gravel cyclist as I'm coming in and out of the woods. I was surprised to learn that even as a rail-less sunglass, you can change the lenses. They've got a patent pending lock on the side rails that attach to the lens that enables you to kind of unclip it and reclip in a different lens if need be. Super excited for you to get to know this story behind the Te Foci brand that you've seen for so many years. Before we jump in, I did want to thank our friends at Bike Index for sponsoring this week's show. Bike Index is a bicycle registry and stolen bike recovery platform. It's a nonprofit that's been in operation for the last 10 years. It's a pretty simple premise. You register your bike by registering your serial number, make, model, and color. That's all you need to do. Once it's in the system, if God forbid your bicycle gets stolen, you come back to the platform and they've built out a whole suite of tools to help you recover your stolen bike. They're integrated with police and pawn industry databases, but almost more importantly, they're connected to a vast community of volunteers that love to look out for stolen bicycles on the various resale platforms that they may find on. If your bike's discovered either by the community, police, or other agencies, they can communicate with you in a privacy-preserving way directly from the Bike Index platform. So I encourage you to take 5 minutes and register those treasured bicycles. Just go over to bikeindex.org today. With that business behind us, let's jump right into my conversation with Joe. Hey, Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to get into the story of Te Foci. As I was saying to you offline, I've been aware of the brand for, it feels like my entire cycling career. So it's great to have you on and just kind of learn a little bit more of the backstory. And why don't we use that as our starting point? Let's learn a little bit about your backstory. How'd you find cycling to begin with in your life, and where'd you grow up?
I think similarly to you, at college, mountain biking was catching on like crazy in the early 90s. And I was spending a summer with my older brother who had a mountain bike, and I borrowed a mountain bike. And instantly, as soon as I went, I was hooked, and really have been in the sport of cycling ever since. So, early 90s, got into mountain biking, that transitioned into road cycling, and then cyclocross, and then now gravel, road, mountain bike, although I am recovering from a rotator cuff surgery. So I'm just on the road and gravel now, no mountain biking for a bit longer. But yeah, that's how I got started in the sport. Was really just through my brother, and through college, just jumping on a mountain bike. So, and then similarly to you, I had just a passion for cycling, just loved it. And got my first job out of college and went and did that for a while, sales managing for a boat dealership of all things. And then my wife, Elizabeth, who runs the business with me, her dad was a rep in the tractor industry. So he sold like tractor attachments. And I said, what Henry does, I could probably do that in in cycling, right? There's got to be some of those out there. So I picked up like a mountain bike action. I flipped to the back to the list of advertisers, and I just started calling companies. And
I love it.
we started our own independent cycling agency first. So that was our first business in the cycling space. We ended up having a very successful agency here in the Southeast. So we're based
Yeah, I was
right
going to ask
outside of
Joe,
Athens, Georgia.
where were you in college when you first discovered mountain biking?
So I was at the University of Georgia. I spent a
Okay,
summer in Birmingham, actually, in Oak Mountain State Park. Any listeners in that area? One of the best mountain bike places I've ever been to still today. And I've been riding for
really?
30 plus years. So that was one of the first places I was exposed to mountain biking, but then came back here to college in the fall and, go dogs, University of Georgetown here. We're in Watkinsville, Georgia, which is about 10 minutes from the University of Georgia in Athens. So,
And I feel like in that sort of early to mid '90s, Georgia actually had a Norba National race over in the
yeah,
state. Is that right?
so actually we had some interesting things. We actually hosted the first Olympic mountain bike race here in Atlanta.
That's right. Yeah.
Went to see that. That was crazy. It's so hot here in the summer, so it was interesting seeing those guys hammer along. But yeah, there's been there's also I think been a Norman National that used to be up at Solly in North Carolina, which is right over the border. But really active mountain bike scene and cycling scene in general here in the Southeast. Athens has always been a big cycling area. The Twilight Criterium, one of the best probably road cycling events to watch in the States because it's downtown Athens at night. It's when students are in. It's a pretty electric vibe. So it's a fun area for this.
And would you describe it as being a vibrant cycling community year round in Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's pockets of areas where it's not as accessible. If you're in parts of Atlanta, the just with traffic and everything else, it's just not as accessible as a lot of other cities. Athens
Yeah.
seems is a pretty good community. We're in Watkinsville, which is a small town outside of it, but there's a lot of, Atlanta does have the Silver Comet, which is a rails to trail that goes all the way from Atlanta proper all the way out to the Alabama state line. And so it's a nice venue to have there. So it's a very cycling friendly community overall. Just I wouldn't ride on a lot of the roads in Atlanta. It's a little bit hairy just because of the amount of volume. And there's not a lot
Got
of
it. Got
dedicated,
it.
like some cities, a lot of dedicated bike lanes.
So you mentioned you and your wife started an independent rep agency focused on the cycling industry. What were the first products that you picked up?
Oh my gosh, the first products we picked up, brands that are gone now. Rocket Power Parts, which was like a glove company. We did Cantina mountain bike gear. Kuka cranks for a while. But then the
Oh
first
yeah.
brands that we picked up that we really started to be able to build a business with, Louis Garneau Apparel out of Quebec City, and then Marin Mountain Bikes. They didn't have any sales in our territory, but we were able to start building a business with those brands. And then over time, we picked up a lot of great brands. We were doing CD Shoes, Easton when they launched their cycling products independently from selling through other people doing their carbon fiber products. Gosh, what else do we have? We did Cliff Bars, another Southeast company, Defeat Socks. We did sunglass brands. We did a couple of different sunglass brands over the years. And that's kind of what led to Tifosi. We had a very successful cycling agency. We were selling what was at the time the number one cycling sunglass, and I would make a great commission. For those of your listeners who don't understand what an independent rep does, you're a 1099 independent contractor. You only make money on what you sell. So it's not like these companies are paying you a salary. It's if you sell one of their products, you make a commission on it, and you're selling to the bike shops. So we would place a display of 12 or 24 pairs of these higher end products, and we get a nice commission at that point. And then
Yeah.
I'd go around the next month to see Craig and say, "Hey, Craig, what's going on with the sunglasses? It looks like you've sold a pair." And they would sell one or two a month at most. And I'm like, guys, I can't stop the car for one pair of sunglasses. How can we sell some more?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think that's another like interesting point just to make sure everybody understands is like as an independent sales rep, you're going out and visiting throughout the territory, maybe it's Georgia or the broader Southeast, and you're visiting every single shop and your job is to figure out how to sell the products you're obviously selling, but what's selling in the shops? Like, what should you be bringing to them? Because that's how you make money.
Yeah, and it was a great business. Loved it. I'm still, in fact, my former agency, a fellow who worked for me, runs it now. So still exists. Great interacting with the retailers, because what's great about the cycling industry is that the retailers and the shop owners and the shop buyers, they are the market. They're kind of like me and you. They got into it because they like cycling. There's not a lot of people in the cycling industry that, oh, well, I wanted to, start a great business and make millions of dollars, so I'm going to go sell bikes, right? It's just not that type of market. So, you're interacting with people who get the product. They get what is exciting to their consumers. And so that was a great learning experience just overall about products and demand and what selling through products. And we consistently see our retailers, and they have sold a pair of sunglasses. And as we were talking to them, the feedback was if they had something that was nice at a lower price point, they thought they could sell, more products. At the same time, I knew lots of reps in other territories. So we just started calling other reps in other territories going, hey, do you see something like this? And at the time, what we were focused on was the interchangeable sunglasses. So in mountain biking and cycling in general, the idea of being able to swap your lenses out quickly and easily and have those in a package, it was available, but the brands it was available in, it was generally 100 to 150 or $200 or more. Um,
Yeah, and it feels like a lot of times you would buy the glass and you'd have to buy the lens
exactly.
separately. So it wasn't just $150, it was
Exactly.
$210 all in.
Even the brand I was selling at the time, I'm going to them going, hey guys, just give me a product that comes with the lenses and retails at even 100, and I could sell quite a few of these. And so our idea was to come to the market with three lenses and be able to retail it at $50 or $60. And we talked to other reps in other territories, and consistently feedback was no, they don't see something like this, or yeah, there's something there, but it's just not very nice. And meanwhile, there was a large e-commerce retailer that a lot of you guys knew in the day, and still exists now, but Performance Bike was based in my territory. So they had a big mail order component, and they had about 100 stores, and they were doing it. They had a sunglass that had three lenses in a case, and it retailed for about $50. So if we
That's
can
true.
do it, it's
Yeah.
got to be there somewhere. So in 2003, we said, okay, let's do it ourselves. 2002, we made the decision. We went over and found some sourcing, and we brought, I think, a total of 23 SKUs, 24 SKUs to market that first year.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how did you, I mean, that it's a big step between here and there, which is like, okay, we have this idea, we think a price point is viable at 50, $79, whatever it was at the time, but actually sourcing glasses, you're an enthusiast, your wife's an enthusiast, you understand the market. It was not going to be feasible for you to put out, super low quality glass and have any vision for Tifosi surviving. So how did you get to creating a product that met your own expectations as well as the price
Yeah.
expectations?
So, we made a trip. I made a trip. She ran everything here. Went to a huge optical show over in Hong Kong, actually, and met with, had to be 300 different suppliers, factories there, and had the
Yeah.
concept of what we wanted, had kind of the three lens, had some examples of what we were looking for, and just literally went and met with every single one of them there over a 4-day trade show. And we found three, maybe four that we thought could do the quality and had the products. And we started with, open mold products. So we said, hey, we're looking for products that already exist like this. And
Yeah.
we found those. We quickly, even starting in, late in year one, we started developing our own molds and our own products, our own designs. But we started with things we negotiated an exclusive for North America with them and said, hey, don't sell these to other people. We like this design. And we brought a collection to market from there. We've been very, very fortunate in that, one of those partners that we started with in 2003 is a partner we still work with today. So we've got long-standing
That,
relationships. All of our products are made in Taiwan, not in mainland China, but all with the exception of one. We do have one product, our Aviator, that's made there because there's no metal production of sunglasses generally in Taiwan. But we were really fortunate to partner with somebody there, and then started quickly trying to develop some proprietary products thereafter. But we were fortunate that we had the sales apparatus with the sales agency that we kind of knew how to sell things. And
yeah.
Elizabeth, my wife, was running an East Coast warehouse for one of our companies. So she already knew the pick, pack, shipping, operation side of things. So all we needed was the product, fortunately,
Yeah.
to kind of feed it up.
Question for you on that product, Joe. I always think about sort of the lenses and the quality of lenses being important for cycling, right? We
Absolutely.
all want to feel confident that if a rock hits us, it's not going to break, etc. Was that with the lens quality already there with these manufacturers? They understood like they need a high impact lens.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of a polycarbonate lens, which is what we source on most of the products, we offer shatterproof product lenses on all of them. Some of our photochromics use a little bit different material because of the technologies involved, but they're all shatterproof. You can hit them with a hammer, they won't break. That technology was there, and you'd be shocked at the higher end brands, high price brands that are being made in those facilities already. So we knew
Yeah.
from, hey, what they're already making, they can make the quality we're looking for. So we
Okay.
were
So you
fortunate in
you
that standpoint. We did learn a lot about lenses because, for instance, our first polarized products that we offered, we were using what's called a tack lens, which is not something we were recommending recycling at the time. We moved out of that just in year two, just because it doesn't have as much impact protection as like what we have with all the products now. But the lens
yeah.
quality and the impact protection from like the interchangeable sets, it was there.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, this is really rounding out the Tifosi story for me because knowing that you guys were within the industry and were independent reps and intended on going into the local bike shops from the get-go
Mm-hmm.
is super interesting. So I presume sort of in those first years, you were able to kind of tap into obviously the local Southeast region where you already had a lot of personal connections, but it also sounds like you had connections in other regions to sign up other independent reps to
It's
start putting the
exactly,
product out there.
it's a relationship business in cycling. Both we sold it in the Southeast with our agency, but then we were able to contact. We knew who the good sales reps were in all the other territories. Now it's
Yeah.
as a pioneering brand that didn't have sales. That was a challenge to get good reps on board, but we were really blessed, and we were having really good success with it here. We got a I think we only started with 6 territories to begin with. So call it 6 or 8 total reps. Now on the cycling side of things, we probably have at least 35-ish in that
Yeah.
space. So we started small with that, but we went from 0 to 500 retailers in the very first year. Just word of mouth,
Yeah.
the retailers, word of mouth with the reps. When we placed the product in the retail stores, they started checking it right away and at a very high turn. Generally in the same retail location, we're going to sell 7 or 8 times as fast as their $150 sunglass that they carry. So we were very fortunate in that, and so we went from 500 dealers to 1,000, and now in the U.S. we have about 3,500 retailers, doors that carry the product, and that's in the cycling space, which is where the number one market share. We have about 74% of the market in cycling specialty stores. So 7.5 out of every 10 pair of
Wow.
sunglasses they sell is a pair of Tifosi's. But we're a top brand in the running space, in outdoor. We're carried in every REI location out there. We actually have a really strong business in the golf arena. We saw that as an adjacency, and so we're primarily focused on sport products. But cycling was kind of where we started and where still our largest kind of single market in the U.S. is today. But we have distribution now in about 35 other countries, and almost all of those are cycling specific types of distributors.
Got it. How when did you sort of extend beyond the initial cycling industry and kind of go into running and multisport?
We actually, so running was adjacent, but we didn't know it. We had a couple of our reps were doing Segoi in the day, and
Yeah.
Segoi was a strong cycling brand, but they had a very strong running apparel brand. And almost by accident, we had some reps who were doing Segoi already, and so they're calling on run stores, and so they just started pitching Tifosi to them, and they started picking them up, and they were selling them, and they were like, we didn't even realize it. I think MPD came to us maybe back in, which is it's a retail reporting software company that collects retail data.
Yeah.
It was probably 2006 or 2007. We were the number one market share in running specialty stores, and we didn't even know it. Our market share was actually stronger than it was in Pike. It was just a smaller market. There's not as many
Right.
running specialty doors as there are cycling doors. So it really started even, in late 2003, we had some adjacency, we were picking it up. And then kind of 2004, 2005, we realized, hey, this is a great other area. Same thing for golf. We saw that as an easy adjacency. So we started knocking on those doors with other independent reps. So we knew the independent rep world. We knew how they operate, and we set up our business to make it easy for them to write orders and to get business and to make commissions. And so that worked very, very well for us building our brand, through the retail network.
And Joe, how have you guys thought about product development over the years? I mean, obviously, like sunglasses have been very trendy and there's been sort of an evolution. Maybe it comes from tastemakers, maybe it's artificially inserted into our tastes from bigger brands with bigger marketing budgets. But I'm just curious kind of how you see product development and putting the best product possible out there.
Yeah, I mean, we have three legs to the company stool that we talk about, and number one is product. We feel like we have to bring out, very high quality, technical bells and whistles sunglasses that people can use for these crazy sports that they go out and do. Cycling, gravel cycling is some of these events. It's brutal on the product, so we feel like that's like the first leg of the stool. And it's certainly, you see evolution with the product, but we're looking for what are technical benefits that we can bring to make the experience for the end consumer better. And so it started like the first feature was coming with multiple sets of lenses, right? It came with multiple sets of lenses, came with a case, retailed around $60. Over time, we found other features that we thought, hey, this really makes it better. We were always noticing it with all the cycling helmets. The retention systems started really changing, and they were bigger or smaller, and so then your eyewear stems would interact with them either in a negative or in a positive way. So we started adding adjustability to the ear pads so that you could adjust them to get them to be the right fit for you. And then we noticed, okay, the same thing's true for noses. Your nose, my nose, your wife's, all different. So if you can adjust the nose pad, that makes it a better experience for them when they're doing these crazy events. And then we noticing like putting ventilation in lenses. We've gone so far now as we have like a utility patent on what we use on the rail system now, but started with our podium design. It's a shield rimless design that you can interchange the lenses easily on. So just looking for these innovations that would make it easier for the end consumer and make their experience better. Photochromic lenses, you and I were talking about beforehand, that's been a huge part of our business. These lenses darken and lighten automatically. In about 12 seconds, they'll go from light to dark. And so when you're talking about, gravel events with different, lighting conditions, you start first thing in the morning, you want something lighter, but then when you're at the peak of the day and you're out on Mount Tam, like you're talking about, the blazing sun, you want it to darken up, but you don't want to pull over and swap out the lenses. So there's been a lot of technical innovations that kind of happened over the years. There is some fashion to it, Craig, for sure. It's got to look cool, and it's got to look cool to the end consumer. And what everybody considers cool, it does change over time. We've definitely seen that right now on the sports side of things. The big shield is absolutely where the market is at. They want consumers looking for something that's flatter, which actually for the end consumer optically is a little bit better. These flat lenses give a distinct look, which is why most of the consumers are buying them. But the fact that they have less curve actually makes their optics a little bit better too.
Okay.
So, and then we have another whole side of our business that's more what I would consider sport lifestyle products. In 2018, we launched a product called Swank, which is, it's a lifestyle looking glass, but it's made with the same frame and lens materials that we make the, $80 interchangeables with. So you can go, do a gravel race in it, or you can go hang out in the coffee shop with it. And that's been one huge change in the business in the last, 6 years. That's now 60% of the volume.
And do you find that some of the cycling shops are picking up those more casual?
Yeah, they almost all do both.
Lines as well.
They almost all do both.
Okay.
In fact, up until actually still in units, the Swank model that we sell is the number one selling sunglass in the cycling industry. And funny story, we were talking about the vegan cyclist before we started recording. Tyler rides with both. He'll ride our Rail, which is our top of the line kind of sport piece, and then he'll wear our Swank XL. And he's doing these crazy long events in what I consider something to be way more casual. It's got him fully protected, but he loves the way it looks. He loves the way it fits. And, that's 80% of the battle. You want to have something that's comfortable for you, that you're comfortable with when you're out there doing these things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Do you think about product development? If we talk about cycling specifically, do you think about mountain bikers differently than you do gravel riders or road riders, or do they all kind of end up merging together?
I think there's a lot of crossover because I mean, how many of us are there that we do it all, right? I mean, I started mountain
Yeah,
biking, then I got into road cycling, and then I cyclocross, and then I do gravel. I use the same pair for all of them. Personally, there are some nuances, in the mountain biking space. There is a little bit of preference to have something that's more full frame. Generally, where that comes from is, there's some mindset that, hey, if I crash, if it's got a frame on the bottom, that's not going to cut me. I'm telling you from personal experience and from seeing tons of pictures over the years, if you crash hard enough, it won't matter whether you got a full frame or you don't have a frame. You got
yeah,
that possibility out there. But I think most people these days are doing multiple disciplines.
yeah,
When you're gravel cycling, you're mountain biking. A lot of times you're doing single track, you're doing fire roads, you're doing road for certain parts of it. So those lines are so blurred now that I think the product tends to be quite a bit blurred as well. It used to be much more niche, like, oh, if it's an open lens glass, that's for roadies, and then if it's a full frame, that's for mountain bikers. I don't see as much of that anymore. There's still some of
yeah.
it, but it's not nearly as much now.
Yeah, I have to say when I first started riding the rail, my initial reaction was this thing is so light. Can it possibly withstand? I mean, it's not like I go around crashing my face into things, but it was just this reaction I had like, is this going to be durable enough? And gosh, I've been wearing that glass for maybe at least a month now. And fortunately, knock on wood, I haven't crashed it, but I think I no longer think about durability as an issue
Yeah.
at all with
I
that
mean, we
glass.
we literally when we started, it's like we kind of talked about. It's people say, well, if it's $80 and it's got all the features of this $250 sunglass, well, what's wrong with it? That's the impression. We
Yeah.
would go to trade shows with a hammer, and we literally would put lenses on the ground and we start hammering on the trade show floor just so people could see that, hey, this is going to protect you. Why? How can we do it? Why is brand X $250 if you try to put three lenses with it, and we're able to sell them for $80, or even have high quality products like Swank that retail all the way down to $25? Well, it's a couple things. One, we're based in Watkinsville, Georgia. None of y'all have heard from it because it's the middle of nowhere almost. We're 10 miles outside of Athens. We're not based in Southern California, so our cost of doing business is much lower. Number two, our marketing budget is tiny, right? I mean, you don't see full page ads with all the top pro tour riders. We don't pay, those guys. We just don't. We don't have the budget for that. We're trying to give the consumer that high quality product at a value. And the way we do it is we've just got a lot smaller budgets overall. And we don't make nearly the margin that the high end sunglass manufacturers do. So that's kind of the secret in the sauce. It's we control our overhead for things, and we don't pay for crazy spends. We don't have the money to do that, so we're delivering the consumer a great product, and they buy lots of it.
Yeah. I think, that in the absence of this conversation, I would have assumed you were only a direct consumer brand, and that's how you were able to achieve the price points that you are. So the fact that you're also affording a margin to your specialty bicycle retailer and running shops is quite impressive, and maybe more illustrative of what the cost of production actually is and what the cost of all those massive marketing budgets are for some of the bigger sunglass companies.
Yeah, I mean, it's a highly competitive space. I mean, most people know there is one company out there that's $25 billion in sales, and they really mostly 99.9% of their business is on the ultra high end. And from their standpoint, they have a great business. They can sell it for $300, then they should. If someone will pay for it, then great. I've just never been wired that way. I was not that guy. I just can't get my mind around it because we've all had that high end brand, and we drop them a week after we buy them, and the scratch is right in your field of vision, and you've got a sick feeling in your stomach for this crazy expensive purchase you made that suddenly is now ruined, that you got to go and spend more money to fix. So that's just never been our motto. It's all about having that value for the end consumer.
Got it. And Joe, if you were to recommend something in your lineup, and I know there's a lot of personal preference that goes into this, but if you were to recommend one set of glasses for a gravel cyclist out of your lineup, what would it be and why?
For me, it would be the rail series. So we have a standard rail, and we have a rail XC and a rail race. They're all the same frame. Um, I like it because it's completely rimless. I like the completely rimless glass because you don't have to worry about fogging as much. So even if you're in a single track section down here in Georgia where it's super humid, if you're moving a little bit, it's going to bring some airflow, and you have nothing impeding your field of vision. You don't have a frame anywhere that you really notice in the activity. So, and I would recommend looking at one of what we call Phototech, which is a photochromic option. We've got both a Clarion red and a Clarion blue Phototech. What is that? These are glasses that have a slight mirror to them. So they're very light colored when they're not activated, but then when you're in full sun, they're going to give you a lot of shade. I have blue eyes, so I need that when I'm out there in full sun. And when you ride here in Georgia, mostly riding in full sun. So I would definitely look at the rail series. That's our best selling, performance sport piece in the line today.
Yeah, that's the one I'm using. I'm using the blue one, and it's the first time I put it on in my garage. It's really funny because it's like put it on. I looked in a mirror just to kind of see the color, and then I walked outside. And to your point, like it changes pretty rapidly. Really cool technology, and to your point, like for an off-road cyclist, that versatility of the lenses changing themselves is super helpful because you don't have to change when you go in the woods. It's going to automatically kind of just change that mirror element or the darkness that you're experiencing looking through them.
Yeah, I mean it's a technology that we started offering in 2005, and it's come a tremendous way now. I mean, these mirrored versions that we have now, those are just available in the last 3 seasons that we just started offering those. That's not something you really see a lot of out there, and we've definitely seen a lot of end consumers on the cycling side of things love these because one, look, we think we look cool with the helmet and the lycra on and all that. But definitely having that mirror out there, it looks cool too. So it definitely gives that the fashion factor that we all are looking for.
Nice. And the rail and the non-photochromatic lenses, you've got, it sounds like you've got several options there as well. What do those look like? Are those
Yeah.
clear lenses, dark
So those are
lenses?
going to come with 3 lenses. The lenses that come in the frame will be a shaded lens, probably mirrored, more for full sun
Okay.
conditions. They'll come with what we call an AC red, all conditions red. That's a good like mid-light conditions. If you're unsure what you're going to be doing, go with the AC red. And then we always put a clear lens
Okay.
in the package. Still a lot of people that like to ride at dusk or at night. And so this gives you a great night riding option there. All those, you can swap them out in just a couple of minutes. Not even a couple of minutes, inside of a minute. Once you're comfortable with them, they're very easy to swap those lenses in and out. And we do find people that they'll buy a photochromic option and then they want to buy an extra lens to have. You can get all those on our website. We offer custom products, so you can go on our custom portal on the website and build up a rail with whatever frame color you want, whatever lens color you want, whatever ear pad color you want, so you can fully customize it.
Nice. Since I got the photochromatic one, it didn't have multiple lenses. So I'm curious, how do you actually take the lens out? Because it's a frameless design. So for the listener, you've got the earpieces going directly into the lens itself. So
Yeah, we've got some
Joe's
great
going
little
to hold up
videos
a pair of
on
glasses.
on the side. I've got the glasses in front of me here, but this mechanism on the side here, basically there's a little cam here. This has a little flex into the back side of the frame. This is a patent we have, and so it allows this frame to flex and then just pull off. So it's
Got
it's
it.
almost like a little bottle opener almost. And then when you put it back in, you just put it in the groove there and you just snap it on. It's just rotating it up and rotating it down. So it's actually very, very simple. The biggest thing is, Craig, don't be scared.
Yeah.
These glasses, and I do this for people all the time too. Let me grab I'll grab a sample. Oh shoot, I don't have a good sample here to do it with, but our glasses with the frame material we use, you can twist them 180 degrees like this, so you're not going to break them. And like I
Okay.
said, you can hit them with a hammer; they won't break. So don't be scared. But we do have
So I
videos
can
on the
let my
website.
9-year-old I can let my 9-year-old manhandle
Well,
them.
I'm telling you, 9-year-olds and dogs are our two nemesis. That and my wife's purse. If I want to torture test a pair of sunglasses, I just don't tell her and I put them in her purse and leave them there for a month. If they come out and they're in any type of shape to wear after that, then I know that they're going to be a good product.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Joe, this was awesome. I appreciate getting the backstory. Like I said, I've been familiar with the brand for so many years, and I'm thrilled to actually own a pair now and get to use them, and really can personally vouch for the quality, and just super excited to hear that entrepreneurial journey. And I wish you guys all the best.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Craig. And if we can help you anytime in the future, feel free to give us a shout.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Gravel Ride Podcast. Big thanks to Joe for sharing the Tifosi optics story with us. I loved hearing it. I've been familiar with the brand for so many years, so it was great to A, hear the story from the horse's mouth, and B, finally get a chance to try these glasses. They've definitely become my go-to lenses when I'm out there riding, regardless of condition, because I've got a couple different sets of lenses. I can go out on dawn patrol with a clear set, or use the photosensitive lenses for most of my daytime riding. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the show. Check out their website at tifosioptics.com to learn more. If you're able to support the show, ratings and reviews are hugely appreciated. Also, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/thegravelride if you're able to financially support the show. Until next time, here's to finding some dirt under your wheels.